honest. How many of us really like making phone calls to people we're not so familiar with or we don't know them at all in English? Now imagine making these type of phone calls in Spanish.
But don't worry, amigos. By the end of today's episode, you'll know exactly how to answer the phone in Spanish. Ask to speak to someone, leave a message, and say goodbye like a pro. We got you covered. Vamos.
Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your experienced Spanish teacher and co-host from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
We'll help you get confident listening and speaking beginner Spanish with content you can actually use in real-life conversations.
Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on socials at Spanglish_friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos. Hola Spanglish friends! Welcome back to another episode where we teach you the best practical Spanish you can actually use.
Yes, if you're new here, welcome. This is episodio 73, episode 73.
Today's topic is one that makes many language learners nervous, talking on the phone.
It's true. I get nervous still making phone calls to strangers in English, let alone attempting it in my second language in Spanish would be very frightening to me.
It can be very scary, whether you're calling your hotel, an Airbnb host, a restaurant, a tour company, or just a Spanish-speaking friend. Today's episode, we will prepare you for it.
And so by the end of today, you're going to know how to answer the phone and introduce yourself naturally, how to ask to speak to someone, how do you clarify who am I speaking to if you're not sure, what do you say when someone isn't available, and finally, how do you finish a phone call politely in Spanish?
But first, let's jump into today's mini conversation. Como siempre, nuestra conversación pequeña. Today, Em is being brave and making a phone call to her friend Carla, who she met at a hostel in Europe. But let's imagine her roommate picks up the phone instead. Listen carefully and see how much you understand. Prove to yourself that your Spanish listening skills are improving. Amiga, ¿estás lista para tu llamada? For your call?
Sí, let's speak with my new friend Carla. Comencemos.
¿Aló? Diga.
Hola, ¿hablo con Carla?
Hola, no. Soy la compañera de piso de Carla. ¿Con quién hablo?
Ah, hola, habla Emily. Soy su amiga de Australia. ¿Puedo hablar con Carla, por favor?
Mucho gusto, Emily. Sí, por supuesto. Un momento, por favor. Ya le digo.
Muchas gracias.
Carla, es para ti. Hola, Emily.
Hola, Carla. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien. ¿Quieres comer una pizza esta tarde?
Sí, claro. Nos vemos a las 5 en la pizzería cerca de la Plaza de Armas.
Sí, perfecto. Hasta luego. Nos vemos.
Chao, amiga.
Alrighty, amigos, and shout out to Val's sister who starred as Carla in that little mini conversation. Let's break it all down because there were so many little useful phrases for answering and talking on the phone.
Let's just start right at the beginning. How do people actually answer the phone in Spanish? In our conversation, I answered with aló. This means hello. You might also hear diga. This is common in Spain. And it's like saying, go ahead.
Yes, there's lots of different phrases. In Mexico, you might hear bueno, which is another way to answer the phone.
If someone else answers, like a roommate or a family member, introduce yourself by saying hola, habla, plus your name. For example, Hola, habla Val. Hi, Val speaking.
And if you're not sure who's speaking on the other end, how do you ask them, who am I speaking with? You can say, ¿Con quién hablo? ¿Con quién hablo? Who am I speaking with? Or more simply, you can say, ¿Quién es? ¿Quién es is like, who's this?
Perfecto. Now let's talk about asking to speak to someone specifically. In our mini conversation, Em wanted to speak to Carla, but her roommate answered instead.
Yes, su compañero or compañera, in this case, del piso. I was a bit flustered and I said, oh, well, can I speak to Carla, please? I wasn't expecting the roommate. I said, ¿Puedo hablar con Carla, por favor? Which means, can I speak with Carla, please? Now, if you're not sure you're speaking with the right person, you can say like, am I speaking with this person? Hablo con plus the person. Hablo con Carla? Am I speaking with Carla? Or am I speaking to someone else? Who am I speaking with?
Who am I speaking with? Tell me. If you've reached the right person, they'll often reply with sí, soy yo. Yes, it's me. Or sí, habla Carla. Yes, Carla speaking.
But in our conversation, as we said, I reached Carla's roommate. So she said, sí, por supuesto. Un momento, por favor. Ya le digo. What does this mean, Profe Val?
Let's break that down. Por supuesto means of course. Un momento means a moment. And ya le digo means literally, I'll tell them. But in the phone, it means I'll get them for you. Okay? Por supuesto. Un momento. Ya le digo.
Like, of course I can go get her. Wait a moment. I'll get her for you. All right. Then Carla's roommate shouted, Carla, es para ti. If you hear this in the background of the phone, it means it's for you, para ti.
Exactamente. Es para ti, Carla.
But let's imagine Carla wasn't there to answer, hypothetically. So this didn't happen in our conversation, but let's just say Carla's roommate answered the phone and her roommate wasn't there. What might the roommate say instead, Profe Val?
Exactly. Sometimes the person you're calling isn't available, and because of it, you might hear, lo siento, no está. This means sorry, she is not here. And some further replies you might hear could be está ocupada, she is busy, or está ocupado, he is busy. Está trabajando, they are working. Está durmiendo, she's sleeping or he's sleeping.
Yes, and in these instances, the other person might ask you, ¿Quiere dejarle un mensaje? Breaking this down, this means, do you want to, quiere, dejarle, which is the verb which means to leave, dejar, and we're adding le to mean to her, dejarle un mensaje. Would you like to leave her a message or him a message? Dejarle un mensaje.
If you do want to leave a message, you can say sí, por favor. You could also ask first, ¿puede dejarle un mensaje? Can you leave him or her a message? If you'd prefer to text them, you could say, no pasa nada, le escribo un mensaje. No worries, I'll send him or her a message.
I like that phrase, no pasa nada, don't worry, no worries here. Le escribo un mensaje entonces, breaking down, I will write them a message instead. I love it. Now, Val, tell us, how do we end a phone call in Spanish? What phrases do we use?
The easiest and most common phrase is hasta luego, see you later.
Another one we use all the time on the podcast is nos vemos, which is like, see you. We use both of these in our mini conversation.
You might also hear phrases like hablamos luego. We'll talk later. Hablamos luego.
And in formal settings, like you've just done a business call, spoke to an Airbnb, restaurant, etc., you can say, que tenga un buen día, which means have a good day. It's a good phrase to know. All right, let's recap everything we have learnt today about phone calls and cement it in our cabeza, in our minds. So firstly, to answer a phone, use phrases like aló, diga, ask who you're speaking with. ¿Con quién hablo? ¿Quién es?
Learning number 2, to respond, simply say, hola, habla, plus your name. Like, hi, this person is speaking. Hola, hablaval. To speak to someone specifically, say puedo hablar con plus the person plus por favor. As we said in our mini conversation, puedo hablar con Carla, por favor. Can I speak with Carla, please?
Yes, and the third and final thing we learned today is when we reach the person, you might hear, un momento, por favor. Just one moment, please. Ya le digo. I'll tell them. I'll go get them. Es para ti. It's for you. And if the person isn't there, you want to leave a message, you can say, puedo dejarle un mensaje. Can I leave them a message? And then we said phrases to say goodbye, like hasta luego, nos vemos, hablamos luego, que tenga un buen día.
So many great phrases to practice speaking on the phone. We have no excuses now, amigos. You can do this. It's time for your reto de la semana as well. Head to the comments and write your favorite phrase from today's episode. Maybe it was ¿con quién hablo? Or ya le digo. Or ¿puede dejarle un mensaje?
Head to those comments right now and you might be included, friends, in an upcoming shout out of the week.
And speaking of shout outs this week, shout out goes to username Desert Holly, who commented on Spotify in our episode about how to describe what you are wearing. And they said, hoy llevo un sombrero amarillo, una camiseta negra y una falda negra. Wow. This is a perfect sentence. Felicitaciones. And this means today I'm wearing a yellow hat, a black shirt, and a black skirt. Felicitaciones.
Amazing work, Holly. That's some really great practical Spanish you're practicing using in the comments there. Oración perfecta, perfect sentence. Felicitaciones. We can't wait to see everyone else getting involved in today's challenge.
And spoiler alert for next week's episode, amigos, we are going to teach you how to go on a date in Spanish. How you can do this.
Yes, we're going to go through so many different parts of a date. How do you text someone to invite them out? What small talk can you make during the date? We're going to have so much fun. I know lots of people have said, our Spanish students, this would be a fun topic to cover. We'd like to know. So here it is. We're going to see you next week.
Until then, amigos, que tengan una maravillosa semana. Ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening to Spanglish Friends. We are both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us, leave a rating, or tell a friend about the show. It helps our awesome community grow.
Join fellow beginner Spanish learners by following us on Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends.
Congratulations on taking another step in your Spanish learning journey.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.